today are our customers. And you actually probably already know us, but I still want to make an introduction. So today we have Valeria with us. She's from the customer success side, will be happy to answer any questions. And me, my name is Sonia. I'm a product manager at Social Links. I'm the one who is kind of behind of all this development that we are going to present today, that some of you are already using. And for some of you, it's a new thing. So I'm just here to tell you about it and kind of teach you of the better ways to use it. So what's the agenda for today? First, we are going to talk about leaks and breaches and the difference between them. Then stealer logs and info stealers, and again, the difference between them. Then we want to kind of compare how stealer logs work and how breaches or leaks work. And basically, it will help you understand in which cases to use what and which ones are more beneficial. Then we have prepared a short demo for you to see how you can actually apply it in your work and kind of like even which buttons you have to push to find the solution to your case. And then we have some time for Q&A. We will be happy to answer questions in chat. So let's start with that. First, I want to talk about leaks and breaches and the difference between them. So basically, leak is leaked information, something that happened accidentally. The difference with breaches is that breaches is something that happens intentionally and maliciously. So basically, there was someone trying to breach the information and they have gotten it out. But in a sense, it's a really similar thing because the information that you get from there is a similar set of information. Basically, what can be there, right? Phone numbers, email addresses, and so on. I want to give you my favorite example that I always give in that case, and that is a food delivery service. I want to say that a lot of us use it, and that's why we are all familiar with how it works. So basically, how would a food delivery service work? You will input your phone number, your email address, likely for to get bills sent there, and then you also enter your sometimes name and also a physical address where you live and where you want your food delivered. Then let's say if that information gets breached, it is usually posted either on the darknet, or also what happens quite often is that it is posted on Telegram chats. However, how it is useful to us as investigators? Basically, how we could use it is that we can use it in point of a person of interest investigations. For example, you have hit a dead end, and that happens quite often. You can see also on the picture here on the slide that there are some kind of challenges that we have in OSINT. And one of them is that some accounts are deleted from social media, or people are trying to avoid social media at all. Or let's say Twitter is restricting what kind of information we can get from there. However, since you can hit a dead end there is leaks. There are leaks and breaches that will help you because, people still have to use all these services like food delivery or other services. And that is what helps you kind of like a breach to come to the identity of that person that you are investigating. I am talking about people of interest. However, leaks and breaches, they are actually, of course, are very helpful in exposure checks. And that is when you want to make sure that that you cover all ends. Let's take an example first, not in any platform, just I want to explain how it would look like. Basically, let's say we have a phone number, and there, again, let's say you've hit all the dead ends, kind of like no further leads, you can't find anything. And with that phone number, what you can do, let's say there has been a breach from an insurance company, and there you can connect a phone number to an email address of that person and the full number, the full name. Sometimes it is way more than that. It's just an example. Sometimes you can even see their kind of credit score or the type of car they're driving. It depends each time on the breach, but there are kind of particular things that you would normally find in those kind of breaches, like names, email addresses, physical addresses, sometimes as well. So with that, you can imagine, and you have it all in one place. For us, we view leaks and breaches more of just one another source that brings you information. Same like Foursquare or Facebook, right? And so you can imagine that you have found from a phone number, you have found an email address, and then since it's all in the same platform, you can continue your investigating and look for that email address in other sources. And it's just a step in your investigation, but an essential one, because before you might have not found anything else, but now you have an email, and then from there you just continue investigating. So there are two kind of small notes that I want to make about leaks and breaches. One is that leaks happen with all kind of websites or just all kind of sources. On one hand, it can be a really small website, a small amount of people have been using or maybe were using 10 years ago. On the other hand, it can be big platforms like Twitter or Facebook that have been breached. And there you can, for example, connect an email address directly with a profile, and that can be really helpful. Another thing, I said there were two, is that you will notice how I refer to it a lot as the darknet information, because usually this information is posted on the darknet. However, it concerns regular users as well, not just people who are, let's say, selling guns on the darknet. Because even if you are not, not very active, not on darknet, or maybe also on regular social media, you still have to, let's say, use an airline. And that's just an example that happened recently to one of our colleagues who did use an airline, booked a ticket, and then the information was leaked. And so there you can again imagine that not only you will see where this person was traveling, like to and from, but also all the essential information, like again, a phone number, an email address, a name, but also sometimes passport details or credit card details. So this is all we just view it as a step in your investigation, not to disrupt the regular process. Then the next thing that I want to talk about is are info stealers, basically, and stealer logs. First, let's start with differentiating them, because it can be really confusing. Plus, it's something new that we have added, and I know that not every one of you uses it. So let me explain. First of all, there are info stealers. As you might understand from the name, they are info stealers, so they steal info from somewhere. How do they do it? Usually they steal information by just sending an email with a kind of a virus, so like a ransomware. And then they start collecting the information that you have on your computer and then just sending it back. And you wouldn't even know it that, it keeps being sent. And it can be all types of information that we'll talk about later. I want to also say here that basically this kind of ransomware actually keeps growing, and with each year there are more cases of this kind of attacks. So we have explained what info stealers are. Now let's talk about stealer logs. Stealer logs are that information that has been stolen by info stealers and then posted somewhere, usually again on the darknet. That's just where, you know, people post it. Maybe at this point it's important to mention here that we are not the ones stealing the information or spreading the malware. Of course, that would be illegal. However, as soon as it's posted in the open or also on the darknet, we or our partners, they have that information for you to look into it. So what kind of information you can find in stealer logs? Basically, stealer logs, as you remember, is the stolen information stolen from a computer. So it's like we call it a snapshot from a device that has been infected. As you can imagine, browse the history there. So all the websites, including even in private mode that the person is visiting, then all the accounts held on that computer. It can be any social media account, it can be any delivery account, so anything, password, logins, like usernames, emails, names, and so on. Plus crypto wallets, they are also something that you can find on a computer. So there you have it. And just in general, there are a lot of things, even cookies, that will help you kind of get a full picture of a suspect or of a person that you are you're looking into, their infected device, kind of, yeah. And now let's look at an example. In this case, we can say that we have an email. Again, we can imagine that there are no further leads. And at that point, you might have stopped your investigation earlier. What we do now is we look for it in stealer logs. There, not only we find all the kind of information connected to that particular email, what we find there is a device serial number. So that's a serial number of an infected device. And from there, we search for the device serial number and find all the information connected to that specific number. We'll also see during the demonstration. I'll show it how it works. And it's actually really helpful to get really the full picture. What things in that full picture are important? Like I said earlier, that is basically like a snapshot of the device. So sometimes it will even be too much of all useful information, usernames, passwords, names, everything. But in this example, what we can do and what we'll also see, during the demo, that will be other emails used on the same device. So you can imagine that there is nothing you can find on one email. However, then you have, let's say, 5 emails of that same person, or of people using that same computer or just device. It can be a phone number as well, a phone as well. But all other emails is what you see, and that makes it kind of useful for you for your next investigation steps. From there, you can do regular social link stuff, and again, it kind of come back to to the open source intelligence area there. So I want to also note 2 things here. One, it's pretty interesting to me, and I was actually surprised to hear it, but it actually makes sense. So cybersecurity industry is more affected by stealer logs and or by info stealers than any other kind of person. And it might seem counter-logical, because and it did seem like that for me at first, because you imagine all cybersecurity folks as people who are very careful, who wouldn't download things just out of nowhere and so on. However, it's just sometimes people coming from cybersecurity industry are the people who who download a game from a pirate website, and that can, include an info stealer malware. Then they also, they're really friendly with computers. They try things instead of just doing very straightforward operations, and that leads to them being more exposed. And that is very interesting because, again, like I said, it means that in cybersecurity, people have a higher risk to be affected by, by info stealers, by info stealer malware. Another note, I said again, there were two, is basically that before we were talking a lot how to investigate one person, like you had one email and you had all other emails the same person uses. But it's important not to forget that also this is something that people are using to investigate whether they are exposed, whether the company or the organization is exposed. And here, another kind of interesting note is that a lot of admin departments, administrative departments are, have to be the most careful. Why is that? One is that, again, they are, people who are good with computers, and they will accidentally download. They have just the high chance of downloading something wrong. And another reason is that when an admin's computer and an admin's device is infected, it has a risk for the whole company, because admin usually have access to more things like passwords to or just any accounts of other employees. And that's why that is something that has to be really checked for companies. Now, like I promised, we will talk about the difference and also the similarities between the stealer logs and breaches. Now, first of all, let's talk about the similarities. And I want to say that actually it is usually it falls under the same umbrella term that covers both breaches and stealer logs, and that is breach data. So they are both breach data, plus that, like you might have guessed from what I have been saying before, it kind of have similar types of data that helps you progress from a phone number or from an email address to a cryptocurrency to a Twitter account to a password and so on. However, there are differences, one in frequency and another one is in volume. Let's discuss that. So in terms of frequency, I want to say, and you might understand it as well, of course, that leaks, unfortunately for all of us, is something that no one is immune to, because even if you are very careful, there are still things in the modern world that you have to do, like book an airplane ticket, and that's what leads to that data being exposed. And that is actually a big plus for us as investigators, that almost everyone that you are investigating, a normal person or someone very like a huge criminal, they are likely to be in a breach. And that means that in terms of frequency, how often you would see someone's data being exposed. Of course, in terms of leaks, that happens way more often than infected devices, because of course not every device is actually infected. But then comes volume. So in the sense of volume, kind of leaks, they provide very specific leads for you, sometimes very useful. That is something that I can say from my own experience, just from the case from last week, actually. But with stealer logs, the volume is much, much higher. So like I said, it's a snapshot of a device. So it means that everything, even a small piece of information will end up there if the device has been infected. So it means that when you find a person's device as being exposed, you've hit a jackpot. And that means the case is as good as solved. Now let's turn to demo. But before I do that, I want to once again say that basically both leaks and Silolog, so breach data, is something that can be really helpful for person of interest investigations, that especially when you're stuck with an investigation and you can't find like what step you can do next, this is what you run, and that is something that solves cases. And another thing is that please don't forget to use it for exposure check. For exposure checks, that's just an essential step of it, whether you are investigating an exposure of an organization or if you're looking to understand if the C-level of some company or organization is exposed. Both leaks and Silologs is something that you have to check. Now let's go to the demo. I will stop sharing my screen for a second because I have to change the screens. Let me find the right screen. Okay, here we go. Yep, perfect. So we'll start with the most simple example with a phone number that we weren't able to find much on. And I want to show how the next step would look like. So what we do is we go and look into the leaks. So that is a cell darknet search in leaks. Again, I want to mention, even though it says darknet, sometimes not all leaks come from the darknet itself. So what it does, it looks for particular kind of leaks that happened with this phone number, and we'll see all of them in a second. Okay. And that is actually a person that I know, although haven't seen in a while. And so right after I have seen the results of like how much is it that we can find on him, I have texted him right away. So we have found 12 leaks. I have noticed that I have set the limit of number of results to 12. So that's why we have 12. Actually, there have been more. And now we can do two things. One, you can see it says, so search leaks with the same password. What it means to us is that this person has used a particular password somewhere, right? But basically, we don't want you, of course, to break into that particular account because that's, again, illegal. However, what we can do is we can search for that password in the database of our partner that has this data. And there we'll be able to provide all other leaks with this same password. However, now that's not what we are going to, that's not what we are going to do. We are going to run extract entities. What it means is that we extract all the kind of information that we have found here in different leaks for the for you to be able to view it better. However, we are currently more interested only in particular things. One is, of course, an email address. And I want to show a particular thing that we have had for a while. But maybe not every one of you knows it. It has nothing to do with leaks, but it's a really important kind of feature that we recommend to use. So I want to show it. We have this thing that is called sets. So that allows you to run all the recommended methods at once, but not all the methods that we have, but the ones that we recommend to run first. So here they are, all kind of get profile methods. So to run them, we press here. It's called get profiles in social networks and messengers. Here we go. And another thing is that we will do the same with this username as well. It also gets profiles in different kind of social media and just different platforms. So here's what we have found. I remind you that in the beginning we had only a phone number, and that was it. And we if you try with that phone number, you wouldn't find that much. However, now here's what we have already found is basically from an email address that we found in the leaks. We have found already a number of the person's, social media profiles with the name, different kind of varieties to how you would write them. And what's important is that we also have a picture, a number of them. And then same, we could see that we have a profile of this person on VK, then TikTok and Instagram. So, and also a Google profile connected to this email address and the Telegram profile. So that's a lot of information. Let's recap. What is it that we have done? Basically, we have started with a phone number that we weren't able to find much on. Then we looked for it in the leaks. This person turned out to be very exposed, even though that's, again, a regular person, not, not someone very uncareful, just someone who ordered delivery. Probably you see that there are a lot of addresses, so I think it's likely connected to the delivery. And there we have found an email address and a username. And with that, we were able to find more than 5 of this person's profiles, and that all in one kind of investigative space. And that's really important because you see, it looks like normal social links that you are used to. Now I'm going to another example. And that is with an email address that we have here. Also, so before we talked about how leaks work, and I have shown you an example. And now I want to show how it would work with steal logs. It's a bit more complicated, so let's make sure that we make it careful enough. So we are going to start with the method that is called search SL darknet search in stealer logs, and we are going to look for this particular email address. So the thing is that basically this, as you can see, that's a Proton email, and normally you can't find much on this kind of emails, and that is why I want to say that it's always with this kind of emails, you usually, unless you have something in leaks or steal logs, you'll have to really, find some. There is nothing you can find with this kind of emails unless you use steal logs and leaks. Okay, so what we have done for now, we have found an email address. That was the initial step. And from there, we were trying to find some clues. So we looked in stealer logs. And there, if you remember, I told you that the most important part is to find the device serial number associated with it, so that we can actually, oh, not leaks, stealer logs, so that we can actually, progress in the investigation, in the sense that we need to find that device serial number to then find all the older breached stealer logs documents connected to these particular devices, which for us would mean find all the information associated with these 2 devices. In this case, maybe it's, I'm guessing usually that's the case, one phone number and one laptop. And so what we are doing is that we are looking for those 2 device numbers that we associated initially with an email address. There we'll find a number of stealer log documents that are connected to those 2 devices. Let's wait for a bit. It might take a minute. Let's see. Basically, everything else that we have here is just kind of something that we can combine into one step of an investigation, because that's something that we wouldn't need anymore, as compared to the device numbers that we are actually looking for. Let's wait for 1 second. I think it should just be there in a minute. That's because there is probably a lot of information connected to this person. Yeah, that's true. So what we can do here, we can now select all still log documents, and from there extract all the entities. I want to say that while it's extracting, I want to say that I know that today we also have our crime wall users. It's a bit easier on crime wall, and if you're interested, let us know. What we are going to do is we are going to look for particular emails that this person has, because the goal of us is to find something connected to that person from what we had initially, an email address, and to connect it with all other email addresses. On Multigo, you saw what I did. I selected all Stilolog documents, and then from there, I have selected extract entities. It means that we extract all the entities like email address, usernames, passwords, domains, leaks. Like sometimes it's since logs contain browser history, you can also see all the links that this person has visited. But what I want to say is that on Crime Wall, you actually have the button to just extract emails. If you want, we can show you later. So now we want the email addresses actually. So let's, what I do is I go to select by type and select all email addresses. That's what we are interested in. And then let me just put them in onto a new graph. So we have that one initial email address, and then other email addresses that are, as we now know, connected to this person through basically, that these email addresses were used on the same devices as this email address. So what we do with that, we go to the same functionality that I have explained earlier, get profiles in social networks and messengers. That will allow you to run this kind of functionality at once instead of having to click one by one. But at the same time, it's important. We never recommend to run all transforms because they are sometimes for some specific cases. But instead, what we want you to do is to basically, we have selected the best methods for you, and they are the ones that we think you should run. So we have started to get some information, and I think we will even, continue to get more because there is a number of emails. Just for your understanding, because I know that this one is a bit more complicated than the leaks. What we have done is that we have found an email address, have found a device number that this email address was used on. Then with that device number, we have found all other emails that were used on those device numbers. There were 2 of them. And now we have started to investigate the device numbers separately. As you can see already, there is a number of things that we can note. So first of all, we keep getting the profiles of different people. Here you see the surname. I wouldn't be able to read it, I think, but you can see that it's the same surname as you could see here, but the names are different. Ava, that's a girl, and that's probably understanding that they have the same surname. That's her father. So what it means is that the girl, or basically the daughter, has used a device of her father, and now she's exposed as well. So maybe even if that person doesn't have much accounts, if this person has done something wrong, you will be able to find his daughter first, because as you know, children or just younger generation in general sometimes post way more. And that is also something that we have to keep in mind when understanding how kind of steelworks work. Not only that, I want to also show, so before I have shown everything connected with the, the steellogs in this particular graph, but I also want to show for example, with this email, that we can still continue the investigating using leaks. And what I'm going to run, I have selected this email and I have looked for it in leaks, and we'll see the results shortly. But basically, the point is, again, even before we'll see the results of what we find in leaks, I want to say that if you remember, there was an email address that we had nothing on. And now, not only we have all the profiles of that of the father of the person who had that profile, you can see even Flickr. I think is it? Yeah, it's a Flickr account. I wasn't sure if I recognized the icon right. Also, Gravatar, LinkedIn, everything, names and stuff, but also we could see his daughter's profiles, also kind of a number of them, even a Foursquare. So she's not that young. Foursquare hasn't been used for a while. In terms of understanding whether she's young or not, actually, what we can do, that is something that you would quite usually see in the leaks, and that is the birthday of a person. Let's just birthday. Let's just look for it. Yeah. So let's see. Not only birthday, actually, but some other pieces of information, including, again, the full name that we have found other ways to find it, but that's another thing. Also, the birthday date, which is the 30th of October of 2000. So that girl is actually a lady, a woman now. She's what year is it now? 24. So she's 24 years old. But we also have her IP address, her password characters, which actually, if we look at them, are the same symbols that she's using in her email address. That's not something that we usually recommend in terms of cybersecurity, guidelines. And yeah, so let's kind of recap. We had an email address. We looked in Silo logs because someone has infected this poor father's device. And then we were able to find all other emails connected to that email address. And from them, we were able to find way more, especially social media accounts that you already know how to work with because it's social links. And another thing is, of course, that we also looked again in leaks to just kind of make a further step in our investigation. And we have found a particular some pieces of information, but one of them included the birthday of the daughter of Ava. In this case, but in previous case for breach data, we used it to actually, in the case when we couldn't find anything on a phone number, and then since we found a username and an email address using leaks, we were able to again progress in the investigation. So now let me come back to the presentation here. Yeah. And that is just something that I want to highlight. We have different functionalities from the darknet, and I want to highlight that during this webinar, I have covered two pieces here. So Stilo logs and data leaks that are usually used for regular surface web investigations, just the ones that you do, whether you're investigating people or just in general into some kind of crime group that you want to check, and also for exposure checks for companies. But we also actually have our actual dark web data for investigating things that you would associate with dark web, such as gun, human trafficking, and drug trafficking as well. But today, that is something that we just decided not to cover because we wanted to cover something that is useful for each and every one of our customers, not some specific area. That's it from my side. I want to pass also the word to Valeria if she has something to add, or also I want to check if you guys have any questions, of course.
Thank you, Sonia, for the amazing presentation. Of course, let's see if anyone has any questions before I start, because it's their time to intervene, of course.
Sure.
See.
Also, for everyone who is watching, I want to say that if you don't have a question, but if you have in general any feedback on how it was, whether it was also clear enough for you, let us know. If you know me, you know that I'm the person who lives from feedback. So please share something if you have something to share. Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you again, Sonia. I will just briefly conclude here with a couple of actually examples from some of our current customers. Of course, we won't reveal the names for obvious reasons, but in terms of great results that some of them achieved with our Darknet pack and all the 3 functionalities, not just the 2 ones that we have shown you today. We have an important police department, of course, in Italy that managed to actually arrest an important criminal in the child pornography and, generally speaking, child-related crimes. And that was done thanks to the usage of our darkness solution and a bit of our Telegram solution combined. And we have similar important results in Switzerland with other important government and law enforcement customers that are actually using our Darknet pack also to prevent and, check chats you can imagine about, terrorist attacks or anything that's related to public security. So, of course, we cannot reveal too much, but just kind of bringing you some real examples of how this can impact your investigation can be extremely useful. So that's just what I wanted to add. And of course, if you have any questions, we are here. Otherwise, we can, of course, leave you to your work.
Thanks for the examples. Well, I actually also just last week we had a case of one of the European Ministry of Interiors in cybercrime kind of division. They texted me that there was an urgent alert in that could save children's lives because there was a possible shooting there. We wouldn't, of course, reveal even the country of that, but we were also able to use the combination of the Telegram first, because the postings were on Telegram first, but then we looked a lot for things connected to, in the darknet. Specifically, I found the date of birth there as well. That was, I think, helpful. Yeah. Yeah, so I see there is a question. Which method did you use to find the device serial number of the person? So here's what I did. From an email address, we looked first in Stilo logs in general. So Stilo log documents, as we call them. There are all the pieces of information, like logs, actually, like things connected, like a record, each record with information. There was a device serial number was just one of the fields. If you use Maltego, you can run extract entities. That's just the name of the method that is called extract entities. And you can use it and then be able to find the device number. And then from the device number, again, what you would want to do is to search for it in Stilologs to make sure that you cover, all the information connected to that particular number. If you're using Crime Wall, instead of extract entities, you can just click create object. And it will, since you need just the device numbers, it will extract just the device numbers right away. Yeah. Perfect. I think that's it. Thanks, everyone. And we'll also make sure to send you a recording. Plus, we have prepared an article about this. We'll also send it a bit later for you to be able to also read this information, because sometimes it's easier, instead of watching a video or a recording, for you to be able to understand where you can apply this in your particular cases. And thank you for today. Thank you for joining today. You know, we always appreciate this.
Thank you very much, everyone. Have a great day ahead.
Bye.